As the youngest of the original members of the X-Men and an Omega level mutant, Bobby Drake Iceman is one tough son of a gun, and as such he has a bunch of alternate hymns that you just might find interesting. I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and this is the top 10 alternate versions of Iceman. Coming in at number 10 is Ice Master. In the alternate dimension of Earth 13729, an older, like really old version of Bobby Drake has gone full Gandalf, sporting tattered robes and a cloak with the whole long gray hair and bushy ice beard. He now goes by Professor Drake, or even the name Ice Master. Ice Master traveled across realities to Earth 616 to warn Iceman about who to trust and about future decisions. He knew he was running out of time, but he got what he needed to be done. He disappeared into thin air pretty soon after the conversation was over, presumably going back to his reality, or maybe the conversation erased his reality entirely in a paradox kind of way. Maybe that's not how it works. Maybe it's Maybelline. We'll never know. Number 9, the movies. Yeah, I'm talking about the X-Men movies with Shawn Ashmore as Bobby Drake. Unlike a lot of other realities, including the main 616 universe, this version of Bobby Drake was not the youngest founding member of the X-Men. Instead, Bobby is introduced as a student at the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, and also as the immediate love interest for Rogue, similar to the Ultimate Universe. He even made her an ice crystal shaped like a rose! So cute! He doesn't actually do a whole lot in the first movie though, other than being impersonated by Mystique to get Rogue to leave the school. In the second movie, he is definitely a bit more involved and he reveals his mutation to his parents, but again, he is kinda treated like a kid and a side character, and so is Rogue, and they don't really do much. In the third movie, by the final battle, Bobby is finally standing as an official X-Man. It's here that he comes face to face with his rival slash former best friend, Pyro, and completely overpowers him, headbutting the hotshot after taking on his ice form for the first time in those movies. It only took 3 movies, but he got there. And then, lastly, in Days of Future Past, which opens in a post-apocalyptic 2023, actually, I didn't know that, Bobby is one of the last surviving X-Men and Free Mutants, and he participates in the team's attempt to change the past, defending them alongside the other surviving X-Men. He dies twice in this movie, but thanks to time travel, he's all good, so let's hope we get to see him again, maybe in Deadpool 3. Number 8, King Ice. Yeah, you know we're talking about an amalgam comic yet again. When Doctor Strange Fate, aka a mix of Doctor Strange from Marvel and Dr. Fate from DC, attempted to merge the Prime Marvel universe and the DC universe to reform the amalgam universe, he took both the X-Men and the Justice League of America and slapped them together with some sticky tack, chewing gum, and some duct tape. This created a whole slew of really awesome amalgamated characters, one of which would be King Ice, aka a blending of both Iceman and Aquaman. He and the others were used to confront Access and Doctor Strange, but were pretty much ineffective. Once Doctor Strange Fate was defeated and the amalgam universe restored, the combined people were split, but I still can't help but think this makes a whole lot of sense with Iceman using the moisture around him to fuel his powers, and Aquaman, well, he's Aquaman. Number 7, 1602. In a dystopian and alternate future, the villain Purple Man used his powers to become president and take control of America. Trying to eliminate any opposition, he decided to send Captain America to the Elizabethan times instead of just, I don't know, putting him 6 feet under, I guess. Whatever the silly reason was, this had an unexpected effect. When Cap wound up in the 1600s, it created another divergent timeline, one in which present-day heroes already emerged in the 17th century, the year 1602 to be precise. Mutants in this timeline were referred to as witchbreed, and as such were feared and hunted by the Inquisition. Just as Iceman is a mainline original X-Man, he is also part of this alternate timeline's X-Men team as well. The counterpart of Iceman was called Roberto Trefusis, and despite his young age, he showed a great control over his power. Roberto managed to encase an entire sailing ship in a block of ice and was able to turn rain into an ice storm. Roberto also also claimed to have served as cabin boy for the famous Sir Francis Drake, who happened to be his uncle. With the whole Drake last name, that kind of makes sense. Number 6. Age of Apocalypse. In the Age of Apocalypse reality, it was Magneto who originally founded and trained the X-Men, thanks to some tomfoolery by the mutant Legion. Bobby Drake, being among the first mutants Magneto recruited, was pushed by the Master of Magnetism much harder than Xavier would have, making the youngest X-Man drop his joking, kid-like attitude and tap into his full potential. And he really did tap into it. Iceman in this universe was responsible for defeating Eunice, freezing him, then shattering the leader of Apocalypse's Infinites. And he played a big part facing Apocalypse's Horsemen. Later, Iceman revealed himself as Sinister Iceman, and united with Archangel, who had become the new Apocalypse. Bobby was as cold as ice in this universe, and that pun is intended. And he had no qualms about ending lives. As a villain, he began going around taking out X-Force members, like when he shattered Deadpool and was trying to delete Wolverine from life, but his actions were in vain because Warren Worthington, Archangel, regained his real personality. After that, Bobby, alongside Dark Beast and a few others from the Age of Apocalypse reality, traveled to Earth 616, where he specifically hid in Madripoor, enjoying his time away from his chaotic reality and hiding from his universe's Nightcrawler, who had joined up with X-Force and was hunting down the other traitors from his reality. It wasn't too long before Nightcrawler caught up with Bobby, and things got a little heated, shall we say. Number 5. Ultimate Iceman. In the Ultimate Marvel continuity, Bobby Drake is the youngest founding member of the X-Men, like he should be. He ran away from his family at the peak of government-supported Sentinel attacks, trying to save his family from their wrath. Now, Bobby was found by the X-Men on their very first mission, where he ends up being the one to save the day when he freezes a Sentinel, preventing it from falling on and taking out innocent bystanders. Bobby pretty quickly proved himself as a valuable asset, single-handedly taking out the Ultimates once with a gigantic ice wall and stopping an invasion by Colonel Wraith and Weapon X all by himself. He was only able to be stopped by Rogue, who was his on-again, off-again girlfriend and in temporary possession of Marvel Girl's telepathy at the time. Professor X has stated that Bobby is one of the 3 most powerful X-Men, which is pretty accurate in most realities. Number 4. Dark Iceman. Back in 2005, the Scarlet Witch's creation of the House of M enabled the Shadow King of Earth 616 to escape to an alternate reality, Earth 6141. The Shadow King here possessed that version of Professor X and then corrupted his team of original X-Men, creating Shadow X. He maintained constant telepathic contact and control over them and forced them to take the lives of all the heroes of their world. Professor X and Shadow X killed all the other paranormal beings in their native reality before coming to Earth 616 as a result of M-Day. The members of Shadow X, including Iceman, faced off against New Excalibur and were eventually defeated by them. Shadow X was then sent to prison, where they were contacted by members of Black Air, who arranged for their release, and they eventually met with the possible world conqueror Albion to join forces. Eventually, the members of Shadow X were released from their mind control with the passing of Professor X, and they defected away from Black Air and Albion and teamed up with New Excalibur. One by one, the members of Shadow X were unfortunately taken out by the Shadow Captains until only Bobby remained. With his friends gone, he used his mutant powers to their fullest until he finally had nothing left to give and he passed away in battle. Number 3. Earth X. Like most of the other characters from the Earth X reality, a lot of Iceman's early history mirrors that of his Earth 616 counterpart up until the release of the Terrigen Mists on the world. All of humanity was mutated, and Bobby was among the many heroes trying to help people in a world gripped by chaos and anarchy. And one of the ways that he did this was by teaming up with former X-Men Angel and delivering groceries to those who were not powerful enough to safely leave their homes, which is actually quite sweet when you think about it. At some point in this timeline, Bobby lost the ability to transform back into his human form, as in, he was constantly in his ice form. So, to avoid melting, Iceman was forced to go north, where he, no joke, constructed a winter wonderland at the top of the world, where he came to reside alongside the nearby Inuit peoples. Fast forward quite a bit, and Galactus eventually destroys the celestial embryo that is growing in the Earth's core. This alters the planet's mass and pushed the planet out of its regular orbit. As you can imagine, the planet began to suffer catastrophic catastrophic environmental changes. The temperature in New York dropped to freezing Arctic temperatures, and so Bobby could return to New York and be reunited with Angel. Yay! The two heroes would aid the law in protecting the Human Torch in New York, which would be under constant attack by followers of the Church of Immortus. Eventually, thanks to the Absorbing Man, the Earth returned to normal, and Iceman most likely went back up north, but he did show up for the wedding between Medusa and King Britain, and with his former X-Men, which is kinda nice. Number 2, House of M. In the timeline created by the Scarlet Witch, known as the House of M, Bobby definitely does things quite a bit differently. When his mutant powers first ever manifested, Bobby kept them a secret from everyone but his parents. Turns out that he should have kept it from them too. Bobby's own father turned him over to the authorities when the Human-Mutant War began because he thought he would be safer in custody than hunted as a renegade. I don't know about that one. Bitter over his betrayal, Bobby was more than happy to join up with none other than Apocalypse when the Ancient Mutant freed Bobby during a raid on the Alamo Mutant camp. After the war ended, with Magneto becoming the new ruler of the globe, the Master of Magnetism gave North Africa to Apocalypse, and Iceman continued to serve his savior loyally as one of his horsemen. We know that the horsemen always get some kind of upgrade to their powers. I'm not sure if I'm wrong about this, but we actually never learn how Iceman's powers were augmented, and that really annoys me. Either way, Iceman helped to secure the human population of the area, forcing them to rebuild Egyptian monuments. Eventually, Iceman was one of the mutants who volunteered to accompany Apocalypse when Magneto authorized the invasion of Wakanda. He distracted Sunfire, Storm, and Namor, freezing the latter two long enough to allow Apocalypse to get past them. But he took a brutal attack from Sunfire, and it's actually pretty unclear whether or not Sunfire completely destroyed him. We know that Iceman has been able to reform himself from being evaporated, so who can really say? Not me. Number 1, Draka King of Ice. Iceman is an original X-Men, the youngest of them, but he isn't exactly the most popular of them, so unfortunately that means that while he does have lots of alternate selves, they don't always really get a lot of focus, and they're kinda just there in the background. But that doesn't mean they can't still be totally awesome, and that is definitely the case with Draka King of Ice. In Extreme X-Men from 2012, an X-Men team made up of Dazzler, Emmeline Frost Summers, General James Howlett, Kurt Wagoner, and a floating Charles Xavier head make their way to the alternate Earth 20329. Here, the Earth is ruled by Thor, God of Thunder, alongside and under the direction of 5 other mutant gods: Storm, Skybreaker, and Allmother, Warren, as in Worthington, the Herald, Sawtooth, Sabretooth, Lord of the Wild, Namor, God of the Sea, and finally, Draka, King of Ice. Draka, I'm assuming, is derived from Bobby Drake's last name, and now with such familiar names, you'd assume these gods would be friendly, but it turns out that they are being mind-controlled by their world's Charles Xavier, who is pretending to lead a resistance against them. As for Draka specifically, I believe he has 2 throwaway lines total, and is for the most part just silent and standing in the background looking totally awesome and godlike. And for that, he's making this list. Alright, now that we are all sufficiently cooled off, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching today on Top 10 Nerd. I'm Adam. I'll catch you all on the flippy flop. Peace out, nerds.